Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. This is another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. And today we're going to be talking about the Limbus Company unit tier list. That's going to be some of the priorities for the different rarity units that are in the game. We're not going to be talking about egos, but we will just be talking about the units themselves, their abilities, their passives, and how useful they are in certain situations. So let's go ahead and dig in. So this is pretty much the universal tier list, no matter where you go, whether you go to Reddit, whether you go to Discord. This is going to be the tier list that you are going to see. And a lot of the times when you look at this, you're going to be a little surprised because Hong Lu, both of his forms are kind of upwards at the top. And I know I was definitely surprised, but the more that I've used the 2-star Hong Lu, the more that I can really verify he is a very powerful unit. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The top 3 units, Hong Lu, Ryoshu, and Hong Lu 3-star, all kind of focus on bleed and heavy damage, and that has become somewhat what the meta is. The 3-star Hong Lu does have bleed in his first skill, but he's going to focus very heavily on getting enhanced damage from his coin rolls, and that is what's going to make him extremely powerful. Ryoshu and Hong Lu 2-star, what's interesting here is that we are kind of always talking about bleed builds with our units right now, because I think all of these units are like SS tier and everybody's like, yeah, bleed's so powerful. But I actually think one of the things that people don't talk very much about, particularly with the skills, is paralysis. I actually think paralysis is one of the most important debuffs that you can inflict in the game, because it's not reliant on debuffs. It's not reliant on like an activation source. It's not reliant on someone being able to deal damage. It's just something that negatively affects the enemy. And when we talk about Ryoshu as well, primary ability actually does inflict paralysis, but also has the capability to inflict damage down, offense level down. Like, these are just all debuffs, and powerful debuffs at that, that are going to synergize really well. So when I look at the top 3 units, what I really look at 2-star Hong Lu and Ryoshu is both damage, but also really support in the aspect of paralysis and debuffs. And when I look at the 3-star Hong Lu, I really look at solid damage, being able to execute enemies and work that way. Now, 3-star Hong Lu, if I had to choose between 2-star and 3-star, that's a tough decision. It would probably depend on how many other S rank units I have, what the synergies I have going are. Right now, though, I would tend to lean towards that 2-star Hong Lu, just because I find paralysis is so powerful, and it is so influential. For those of you that aren't familiar with what paralysis does fix the power of X coins to 0 for 1 turn. So being able to inhibit your opponent's coins is going to be very important and very good when you are kind of going up against those clashes. Now, taking a look at the S tier units, I do actually use a number of these. So in my primary team right now, I do actually have the 3-star Rodion, Gregor, and Sinclair. And what I can kind of say about these units, at least these top 3, is these are kind of my bread and butter right now. I find that they're really kind of just good overall units. I think specifically Gregor really stands out to me as a unit that's good in a variety of compositions. Being able to inflict rupture, being able to heal himself, these are things that are really important. There's not very much healing in the game right now, so the fact that he has that, he's also on the featured banner right now, so a lot of people have him. He's just, no matter what your formation is, he's going to be a good unit to set. So if you're looking for like a strong independent unit where maybe he's not going to have the highest team synergy, but he's going to be able to stick it out on his own, I think Gregor is definitely one of the ways to go. And Rodion is an interesting character, particularly now that I'm in chapter 3. You do notice that Rodion 3-star is all slash type abilities, and of course follows up on the bleed capabilities that we talked about earlier. Also doubles crit chance on the enemies with bleed. So if you're running Honglu, Rio, and kind of these other bleed compositions, you are going to want to run 3-star Rodion in order to make use of that tier 3 ability that she does have. Now, while she is really good, she doesn't make the team, right? She's a unit that you're going to use if you are running some type of a bleed synergy. Sinclair is interesting because you do run into a situation where Sinclair does have bleed, he does have paralysis, which is really nice, but then all of his kind of buffs are focused on gaining poise. And it's an interesting note here down at the bottom. They have really great reviews. He probably, this is one of those units. While I find him being really good in my compositions right now, I'm not towards the end game, I don't have a variety of egos. It does point out that he's really good support unit when he does have the impending day ego. And while I don't have the extensive ego knowledge I wish I had right now, I think this is an important note here. If you have another unit that is a little bit more flexible or may fit into the composition a little bit better, Sinclair may not be the right unit for you right away. Now, for those of you that are looking at Heathcliff and Don Quixote, Heathcliff 3-star, he is listed as an A rank unit. He's not a unit I personally have, but he is a unit that is going to be pierce attack based, and he does have the ammo mechanic. And the ammo mechanic, if you guys again are not familiar with this mechanic, basically spent by certain skills, some attacks cancel if lacking ammo. So really good for short and powerful fights. They have said they are going to be changing the ammo mechanics here in the near future. So when you do get to things that are like the chapter 3, where you are like running into really long fights, when you're trying to like push that duration, he may not be the best unit for you. And he may be a unit that is going to be much better when you do get to that point where the ammo changes have actually taken effect in the game. Don Quixote as well, the unique charge mechanic, so he does have access to rupture, he does have access to fragile, which are really great, a mixture of slash and pierce. Basically really good damage output, great synergy. You are going to need him to be tier 3, but when I look at his stats and when I think about the builds that I'm building, a lot of the times I feel like a lot of builds are kind of incomplete or not fully like synergizing, and I feel like he doesn't synergize. Like I feel like he's just damage, and I think there's a lot of builds right now in the game that are that way. For those of you that are familiar again with other status effects such as tremor, when attacked by skills that burst tremor, raise the stagger threshold by the effect's potency. So you can only utilize tremor when you're using attacks that burst tremor, and unlike bleed and paralysis and some of these other status effects, you know, there's not a ton of units that utilize tremor. So you're kind of in a situation where like bleed has a lot of support, right? Paralysis is really good. So you're seeing these units that focus around bleed, focus around paralysis being pushed to the top of the list because that status ailment and those status ailments are powerful and they have support. And then you tend to see other status effects like tremor and burn slowly being pushed back because there's not a ton of units that utilize burn, right? There's not a ton of units that are actively like, yeah, we're gonna burn, like, and burn could be really good, don't get me wrong. In the future, burn could be absolutely really powerful if it had more support. And I think what we're seeing right now, particularly in the SS and the S tier, is we are seeing kind of a imbalance in the game in terms of different abilities, different capabilities of different units, and different status ailments. So we have seen a lot of people or the developers talk about balancing the game already, particularly with shooting and ammo, and a couple of other balance changes that they are going to be implementing. So hopefully we'll be seeing some of these units become a little bit more viable, a little bit more useful. When we're getting to A tier, this is kind of what I would consider the like generic units that are really just going to be filling your roster depending on certain situations. The one unit here in A tier, which I would definitely recommend, is actually going to be Odis. So her 2-star is really good. Has multiple blunt abilities, has pierce. It can give damage up to the units with lower speed, attack power down. It inflicts sinking. It her passive gives haste to allies. Like, she's just overall a really good unit. So she's great. I have found her to be really good. I've found her ego to be really accessible as well. So if you're looking for someone to really like buff an ego and use and put in your team, she's really going to be a good unit for that. She is a like generic, very powerful unit which you can slot into your team and kind of utilize. Now, I don't want to go over all of the units because I personally haven't experienced every single unit in my team and I don't have them all leveled. What I will say is I do want to point out just a couple of them. So Sinclair, the Jefe Los Mirages, I believe it is. He does have a lot of blunt skills, and as we are going into chapter 3, myself in particular, blunt skills are becoming really important. So units like Rodian 2-star, which has all blunt abilities as well as paralysis and defense down, are units that I'm looking to bring with me. I'm also actually using Marisol. So the 2-star Marisol is actually doing a good amount of damage. I've actually leveled him and brought him in. He is B tier. He's not incredible, but as you are approaching into that chapter 3 where you do need these blunt attacks and you do need to be able to like push your way through, and if you do want to get your EX, you may need to do that. He could be really good. Similar, 2-star Gregor has all blunt attacks as well as burn. So if you're looking for synergy, if you maybe don't have the 3-star Gregor, if you run like 2-star Gregor with Marisol, you are going to get at least some blunt synergy. Throw in 2-star Rodian in there, and all of a sudden you're going to have a really good kind of base blunt team that can work together. Now, you would have to level them, you would have to kind of work together on that, but they do kind of have a nice synergy, and that's kind of how I've started pushing my way to try and get my EX on some of the harder chapter 3 missions. Anyway, everybody, let me know what you guys all think about this tier list and this discussion. If there's one unit in particular that you think is really good that maybe I left out, please put it in the comments section. Again, I am not an expert on this game. This is just me going through the information and talking about what I've recognized and experienced, and I'm really curious what you guys all think too. Shout out to the Peerdwin GG team as well in their Discord. They put together this tier list and they have a ton of information on both the egos and the identities of the different units. Make sure you go check out their website. I will put it in the description down below, and I will catch you guys later.